A white car arrived and came to a stop. Lee Min-sung stepped out, instructing his driver to wait nearby. It had been 3 months since his last encounter, and as he walked through the hallway, his presence did not go unnoticed. A cleaner passing by immediately recognized him, acknowledging his status as the vice guild master of the Reaper Guild. Lee Min-sung inwardly scoffed, unsurprised by the attention. His excellence was impossible to conceal, and maintaining a strong public image remained a priority. With a confident smile, he acknowledged the recognition, effortlessly reinforcing his reputation as a hero among hunters. The cleaner expressed admiration, voicing support for him as a hero of the hunters. Lee Min-sung relished the admiration in the cleaner's eyes. This was how people were meant to look at him. Born as the son of the vice president of Yujin Construction, he had debuted in the entertainment industry at a young age, making an immediate impact with a wildly successful advertisement. From there, he soared through showbiz, earning the title of the Asian Prince, cementing his status among the elite. Lim Taegyu had spoken with a calm finality, stating that he was already getting old and had decided to become a hunter as soon as possible. That meant he would have to quit being Lee Min-sung's driver. Reflecting on it, he had casually mentioned Min-sung's A-rank status and brought up the suggestion from the Hunters Association. They had encouraged him to establish a guild, and without hesitation, he extended an offer. If Min-sung was interested, he could join. Even though he was an A rank, his own driver had awakened as an S rank. That day, he became certain. The world was broken. The carefully structured social pyramid had been upended by a single cataclysm. Restoring that hierarchy to its original form became his ultimate goal, even if it meant joining hands with a demon. Lee Min-sung entered the room, his sharp gaze sweeping over the men inside. Their smug expressions irritated him, and his presence carried an air of barely restrained aggression. He demanded the whereabouts of their master, expecting a proper reception after all this time. From the shadows, a man acknowledged his presence, recognizing him immediately. Lee Min-sung studied the boy before him, noting the distinct hair color and piercing eyes. He recognized the familiar yet changed presence, acknowledging how much the boy had grown since their last encounter in infancy. There was a clear increase in mana, a sign of significant development. The boy, unfazed, explained that his current state was not a result of natural growth, but rather a restoration of his true self. To overcome the complexities of dimensional travel through outer space, his immensely powerful main form had fragmented both strength and personality, sending these fragments to this world. The first to arrive had been the weakest, himself in an infantile state. When the second fragment arrived, it had fused with him, creating the version that now stood before Min-sung. Though his memories remained intact, his personality had shifted from what Min-sung once knew. Min-sung found the explanation overly complex, but before he could respond, the boy dismissed any notion of familiarity, making it clear that their relationship had fundamentally changed. Lee Min-sung remained indifferent to the boy's change in personality, focusing instead on the promise they had made. The boy acknowledged it without hesitation: fame, fortune, and the elimination of the S-rank hunter, Lim Taegyu. Satisfied that their agreement was still intact, Min-sung moved on to the reason for his visit. The boy, unimpressed, questioned Min-sung's presence, reminding him that he had been instructed not to visit unless there was something important. Min-sung dismissed the remark, claiming he had every right to be there, but eventually revealed the real issue at hand. There had not been a problem with the production of star powder. The Hyena Guild, responsible for sourcing the fuel, had been wiped out, and the factory at Seoul Station had been destroyed. He had come to request additional supply if any was available. The boy immediately sought clarification, asking whether it had been an ambush and if the cause had been identified. Min-sung explained that the culprit was a hunter wearing a black mask. The boy, unimpressed, pointed out that Min-sung himself had established the distribution system using their star powder manufacturing process. He had claimed there would be no problems. In response, Min-sung waved off the concern, dismissing it as unnecessary fuss over small details, insisting that focusing too much on such matters would only slow progress. The boy scoffed, expressing his disappointment at Min-sung's incompetence. He remarked that it must have been a mistake from his previous personality to have chosen Minsung as his pawn. In an instant, Minsung reached for the knife concealed at the back of his leg. Without hesitation, he dashed behind the boy, pressing the blade against his neck. With a cold gaze, Minsung made his stance clear. He wasn't like the mindless husks under the boy's control. He was an A-rank hunter, fully capable of eliminating the boy before his powers could fully return. He was not a pawn. Rather, the boy was his. The boy observed the simplistic way human hunters measured strength, relying solely on their mana pools as a ranking system. To him, it was a crude and primitive method, a barbaric way to define power. An old man walked down the street, his steps slow yet deliberate. Suddenly, his eyes began to glow with a radiant yellow light, and a halo of the same hue formed above his head. Lee Min-sung's thoughts raced as he sensed mana surging from every corner of the building. A chilling realization struck him. This wasn't just ordinary energy fluctuation. Suddenly, every human in the building turned their glowing yellow eyes toward him, each one now adorned with a radiant halo above their head. A realization dawned on him: every human in the building had fallen under the boy's control. The entire structure itself had its exterior now bore a massive halo, with a glowing cross perched at the very top. The boy acknowledged that his previous personality had deemed Lee Min-sung necessary for survival. However, now that he possessed the power to survive on his own, their relationship could change depending on Min-sung's competence. The hunters in the room, their stances tense and ready, prepared to strike at Min-sung at any moment. Lee Min-sung quickly reconsidered and dismissed his actions as a mere joke, urging the boy not to take it too seriously. He claimed he was simply testing whether the boy could truly eliminate an S rank. The boy, unfazed, responded that he would spare Min-sung for now, as he still had his uses. The girl presented a vial containing a stimulant with a concentration 100 times that of star powder. Lee Min-sung's eyes widened in surprise as he examined it, clearly not expecting such a substance to exist. The boy explained that if diluted, the stimulant could be used to mass-produce star powder. Unlike the original, which only affected low-rank hunters, this version was potent enough to influence even an A-rank like Min-sung if ingested. Without hesitation, Min-sung pushed the vial away, refusing to use something he knew nothing about. Lee Min-sung acknowledged the monstrous entity he had unleashed upon the world, but dismissed any responsibility for it. To him, it was not his problem. With a firm tone, he insisted that the boy uphold his end of the deal before turning away. The boy stood in silence, a notebook slipping from his grasp and falling to the floor. A sense of anticipation flickered in his eyes. He could feel it. Another fragment of his power was drawing near. Once he fused with it, he would no longer need to conceal his presence. When that moment arrived, everything would change. Deep within the dungeon, a giant python let out an ear-splitting screech, its massive tail whipping toward Ezel and Gray. The two swiftly evaded the attack, landing firmly on the ground as they locked eyes with the towering serpent. Suho planted his foot, gathering power before launching himself toward the python's head. Wrapping his arms tightly around the thick section near its head, he held on as the beast thrashed wildly in resistance. Ezel and Baru watched in alarm. Ignoring the serpent's violent struggle, Suho tightened his grip even further, his sheer strength cutting through the beast's flesh. As the head separated from the body, he released his hold, landing on the ground with a firm step, momentarily staggering before regaining his balance. The boy's thoughts continued to swirl with certainty. Once that time arrived, the invasion would begin.